Morning, everyone. Hope you're all well. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. The world has gone bonkers in the last 24, 36 hours. What do I mean? Well, if you watch my videos regularly, a couple of days ago I put a video on regarding the grooming gang scandal, and not just the grooming gangs and the crimes themselves, but the fact that there seems to have been a very large scale, sort of semi coordinated cover up or attempt not to allow the public to see the full extent of the nature of these crimes. This was prompted by a post that I saw on X where somebody obtained and released transcripts of one of the trials, which was a trial in Oxfordshire, and just how horrific the nature of the actual crimes were. And I wasn't anything to do with me sort of releasing it. I was just fortunate to well, not fortunate, but I happened to be right place, right time, saw it, made a video about it, and the video took off. I think it's up to about 180 odd thousand views in 2 days. But I seem to have got the timing right, because in the last 24, 36 hours, the whole of X and the social media platform X seems to have also fastened on to this particular case, and it's gone absolutely insane. There are now thousands and thousands and thousands of posts all over X. Now, I know a lot of you people that watch TikTok don't also do other social media, you just rely on TikTok. So let me just summarize what's gone on. You've got very, very, very high level people, both in the USA and in the UK, now calling this out on a very large scale. Elon Musk himself has put on, I don't know, maybe 20 posts about this in the last day and a half, calling for the British establishment, calling for British MPs, calling for the British justice system to review all of these cases, calling for the people in councils and politics and police, etc., who have not reported on this to be either sacked or to be taken through be taken through the courts. He has also jumped on the Tommy Robinson bandwagon and is calling for him to be released, although obviously he can't do that. He's got no influence on that. He's also shared the film that he made, which has zoomed to like 90 million views in 24 hours. It's gone crazy. But it's not just people like Elon Musk. You've got people, high level senators in the USA, you've got senators in Australia, you've got media companies from around the world, you've got numerous politicians, mostly conservative and reform politicians in the UK, people like Robert Jenrick, Suella Braverman, Liz Truss, and numerous others, all calling for investigations into this to be started. You've got people roundly condemning Jess Phillips. Jess Phillips is the Labour MP who's been appointed the children's safeguarding minister, and she turned down the request for a public inquiry into this in the Oldham area, and people are openly calling for her to be sacked, saying that it's not good enough that the children's safeguarding minister is refusing inquiries into these sorts of things. It's gone absolutely ballistic. It feels like the pressure is growing and growing and growing on this entire subject, not just on the gangs themselves and the fact that this has gone on for 25, 30 years and apparently is still going on, but on the fact that the political establishment, the judicial establishment, and the high levels of police establishment, as well as the media, have gone out of their way to try and downplay this, gone out of their way to try and not report on it. And the pressure that has suddenly erupted, it's like a pressure valve has suddenly been released and everything has come spewing out. Seriously, if you've got an X membership, go onto X and just have a look through. You won't believe some of the tweets, the volume of tweets, and the level of the people in terms of seniority globally that are now tweeting about this. It's massive. It's going to be very, very difficult for the government to just ignore it. Some sort of statement or something is going to have to give, because it's not going to go away now. And does it change anything? Well, not necessarily. They can't force people to do anything. They're not going to suddenly start arresting more people. They're not going to suddenly start sacking these people. But it does change the landscape in a positive way, in the sense that it makes it much, much more difficult for these things to be ignored, overlooked, or sidelined going forward. It makes it much, much more difficult for the establishment to persecute the people that are bringing this to attention like they have done in the past. It makes it much, much more difficult for the establishment to do anything to the man that's banged up and probably shouldn't be. it makes the whole landscape around all of this subject completely different, and that's what's important. But as I say, I just fortuitously made a video about it just as this was kicking off, and now it's gone absolutely mental on a global basis. So if you have some time, if you're on X, go and read some of these tweets. Look at Elon Musk's page and thread and some of the posts that he's put on, but then just look at almost any political figure. There's also, I would highly recommend, there's a journalist called Charlie Peters. Charlie Peters was an independent journalist. I think he now does some work for GB News, but he started investigating this 10, 12, 13 years ago, long before GB News was even a thing, has made documentaries about it. He's got a thread on Twitter, or X, which is about 25 posts long, which details and documents the entire history of what's gone on, going right back to 2003. It's a really brilliantly well researched, thoroughly detailed, highly readable thread. Lots of people condemn the people that are bringing this to attention as being right-wing, far-right, Islamophobic, etc., etc. This thread by Charlie Peters is very, sits on the fence and it documents it in a very detailed way. It names names, it talks about the journalists, it talks about the various investigations, it talks about various judges. It goes through in great detail what's gone on. So if you've got the time and if you've got the inclination, I'd highly recommend going and reading Charlie Peters' thread that he's put on X. If you just do a search on Charlie Peters grooming, it will come up. It's very well worth a read. But as I say, this has taken off. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out over the next few days, week, months, etc., because the landscape has entirely changed, and I don't think we're ever going to go back to where we were.